Hello, my fellow KW stakeholders. Of course, it's Aaron Kaufman, self-titled Chief Stakeholder Evangelist out of Atlanta, Georgia. And guys, can't tell you how excited I am about our My 401 KW interview today. It's with my good friend and mega agent, Jay Gree. Nah, just kidding, Jay. Jay Gray. That was an inside joke. Jay, how's it going today, brother?
It's good. It's good. It's good to be back in Myrtle Beach. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Look, super excited to talk to you. Not only are we good friends, but I've always been really sort of connected to your mindset around what it means to be a KW stakeholder and sort of how you take ownership of your experience at KW and purposeful about growing the company. But before we get into all of that, got to hear the Jay Gray story because I've heard it. I think it's pretty awesome, but I'd love for you to share with the two people that are listening right now. I'm just kidding.
Thank them, by the way. Thank you.
No. And those are what? That's your mom and your sister?
I don't know if they're in the group.
No, they're not in the group. Probably not. But this will be recorded for people to watch in their free time. But Jay, look, catch us up on who you are, sort of what your story is, how you made your way to KW, and then we'll kind of go from there, right?
Sure. And as you know, I'm a talker, so I'll try to be as succinct as possible so we can cover a lot of things here.
Right.
So for me, real estate was kind of a side thought. I was a dual career agent in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. I was a career fireman, and I actually made a pretty good living as a fireman, almost six figures a year. It was great.
Do they have a height requirement to be a fireman where you came from?
Look, we're the same height on the screen here, so no one knows that I'm only 5'9". Okay,
just kidding.
So no, there's not a height requirement. But so we had a really flexible schedule. So it was 4 days on and then basically 4 days off. And I was like, I'm bored. I want to do something else. I loved my job, and yet I also wanted to challenge myself. Have additional income, which is an important piece of that. So I got my real estate license back in 2013. So we're approaching 10 years ago. And that was really just for friends and family. Didn't really know what I was doing. What's funny is, the same way that you and some of the really top recruiting agents at KW have done, I was kind of on the receiving end of that. I just went on Indeed or Monster and, I thought I was applying for a job. And the first brokerage that got back to me was one of the bigger brokerages. I had no idea. I was like, oh my gosh, these people want to talk to me. So went and met with the broker there. Didn't know anything different. Started my real estate career, I believe, at the same place that you did. And about a year into it, one of the top agents in the market center there was like, hey, we're leaving. We're going to KW. I know you're going to do great things. You need to be there. And I'm like, do great things. I'm a fireman. Like I'm doing things that I want to do. This is just for fun. I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. I said, sure, I'll go to KW. I don't care. It doesn't affect me. And it was like traveling through a time machine. I mean, going from, and again, this was before we even started all of our cool technology stuff. Yeah. This was 2014 or 2015. And it was like night and day with the technology, the culture. I'm like, there's people in the office, there's people talking to each other, what's going on? And yet I still didn't take full advantage of everything that KW had to offer. And I certainly was not running it like a business. It was, I was like the majority of agents out there who were, doing 5-6 deals a year.
Yeah.
And
let's stop for a second, Jay, because you did the guy that you went that, sponsor you to KW. I'm assuming it's the person that was telling you, hey, we're leaving Coldwell Banker and we're going to Keller Williams, right? Yes. And were you working with him on his team at the time, or you were a solo agent at that point?
Well, she.
Oh, she. Oh my God. Excuse me. Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
She could be on this call. She might be looking. I'm a prodigy. No, I'm kidding. So, what was the question?
All right. So she said, hey, I'm moving to KW. Were you working with her on her team, or were you just someone you had a good relationship with?
Interesting fact. So looking back now and seeing where her mindset was and the mindset of Coldwell Banker, where we were, and then kind of where we are today. And it's like, wow, now that I know what I know, I can see how everything transpired. So I remember one time sitting in the office and she came in and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm looking for business. I don't know how to do that." And she said, take out a deck of 3x5 cards and write down every single person that you've ever talked to in your life. And I'm like, that just sounds crazy. And I'm not doing that. But what's funny, right, is that's kind of the basis of building your database. So she was thinking like a true business owner. And she had actually offered me to come onto her team. She's like, "Hey, look, I would love to have you on the team." And the broker prevented it. He said basically it would affect their bottom line. Again, I guess it had to do with the splits and things.
Right.
And
let me say this. Let me add to that, Jay, because I'm the guy that gets to say whatever I really want to say on these interviews. But look, I was at Caldwell Banker, good company, traditional, dependent, brand-centric model, good people over there. But when you're running a dependent, brand-centric company, you don't necessarily want your agents thinking like independent business owners, right? Because then they're going to start saying, well, why am I at this dependent brokerage that doesn't offer me the training, support, and vision to grow into being an independent agent? In many ways, also wants to kind of keep you in that dependent box, right? Because if you start thinking like a business owner and start building a team, well, you might start infecting other people in that office too, right? So I just want to make that point. It's not that they're bad people, but if you're running a dependent model and there's independent and interdependent models out there that are better places for you to run your business at, they're probably going to be proactively trying to keep you in that dependent box. Is that a fair statement, you think?
I would agree. And I think, taking it a step further, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think you bring up a good point. We're all independent business owners, and we're all lucky to be, in business with Gary. And as a privately held company, we are truly independent business owners.
Yes.
Whereas in a dependent company, and I'm not saying anything about any brokerage in particular, but when you have shareholders to answer to, it's harder to control.
Yeah.
When you've got people growing their businesses the way that we grow them.
Yeah.
They have to have some hand in it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good point. All right. So back to your story. So she's telling you, hey, bust out the cards, right? Start writing down people, right. Started getting you to kind of think a little bit more tactically like a business owner, and then pick it up from there.
Yeah. So she'd always been, just like we do, we help each other together. We all achieve more. And she was always there to back me up, tried to get me on her team. The broker wouldn't allow it. And then shortly thereafter, she got invited to, I can't remember if it was Family Reunion or Mega Camp. I think it was Family Reunion. Yep. She came back, said, "Hey, do you want to go to KW? We're moving our business there." And I followed, right down the street, and was still mind blown. Like, wow, this is crazy. Still didn't dive into everything or take advantage of all the resources that we have to offer. However, side note, I wanted to retire to Myrtle Beach. So this is kind of where we get to today.
Yeah.
I'm fairly young. I'm 33. I could have retired at 42, which I know probably sounds nuts to you.
From being a fireman is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but the problem was that the city that I worked for was financially inept, and I saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah,
there were days that came by where we weren't getting paychecks, and I was like, I love my job. Right. It was my why, and that's the thing. I achieved my why so early. Like, I want to be a fireman. Well, I was a fireman for 7 years, and I said, well, I guess my next why, and again, I didn't know what a why was at that time, was I want to live at the beach. And I accelerated that plan by 20 years and moved to Myrtle Beach with no friends, no family, no sphere of influence. I sold my house in Pennsylvania.
How'd you pick Myrtle Beach of all places?
I vacationed here.
Okay.
It's actually the first out of state vacation that I ever had. And I didn't travel much when I was younger. So I think at 19 was my first time down here. And honestly, it was because it was different from where I was from. And but then as time progressed and I continued to vacation here, I was like, you know what? I think this is a good place.
Yeah.
So in March of 2018, my now wife, Emily, and I moved here. And I didn't have anything. I think I had $15,000 in my pocket.
Wow.
and my monthly bills were like $6,000. So I had 2.5 months to figure it out. Otherwise,
Right.
I had nothing.
Yep.
And, long story short, from that point to here, it was 2018. Since then, really dove into everything that KW has to offer. I was in a couple of different leadership roles here at the Market Center. As I came into our Market Center in 2018, we were also doing some kind of like rebirth. The Market Center before, and we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Some market centers, because of the franchise model, don't always, follow things the way they should. Yeah.
Sure.
And so when I came in, there was just a ton of things going on, and I ended up operating as the PC coach, the interim team leader, an assistant team leader, and then finally went back into individual production January 25th, 2020. Right before
Amazing,
COVID.
though, man. Because when you talk about the success you've had since then, it's really, inspirational, Jay, what you've been able to do in such a short period of time without, moving to a new market and not knowing anybody. So you jump into being an individual agent, and had you all at any point up until that point, had you done anything to grow your profit share? Did you understand it? Was it even on your radar? I'm just curious where you were from that standpoint at that moment.
Yeah. So what's funny is when I first got here, different market, different work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, how do I get business? And the one person in the office who had like an idea was like, well, you can call expireds and withdrawn. So I was like, okay, great. Just print me out a list. I had a list of like 2,000 names. And as I'm doing that, just hitting the phones from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m. every night. And I was like, you know what? Hey, this has taken a while. We know that whatever we do today shows up in 90 days.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, I'm not going to see a paycheck in the next week anyway. So what if I got into this profit share thing? So now this is completely on my own. This is without knowing your model or even understanding what profit share was to the extent that I do today.
Sure.
And I was on Indeed, and I was looking up, who has the highest price points in America, what were the closest market centers, and then I was taking out the free Indeed ads there.
Yeah.
I think the first person I sponsored to KW was shortly thereafter in 2018, and she is in like Oklahoma. She's still there, first level, and me like on the other line. She was already a licensed agent. Me on the other line. I have no idea what I'm talking about. And I'm like, yeah, I love Keller Williams. I'm a international talent scout,
I love it. And,
but I got kind of busy back into, the sales aspect of things, which, and I'm sure we'll discuss this, offers so much of an opportunity to have vetted, qualified people that you can have good conversations with and really change their life while building your profit share tree. So that's kind of where I've transitioned now.
So let me ask you something. So obviously you tapped into how you joined KW, right? Your natural thing was, look, I'm in Myrtle Beach. I don't have a ton of relationships. I don't know if you had considered dialing and cold calling agents in Myrtle Beach, but did you sort of tap into how you joined KW off of Indeed and said, hey, look, this is how I joined the company. I'll just dabble in that because I don't have substantial relationships yet in Myrtle Beach. Was that the reason?
To a degree, I would say, and again, keep in mind, between 5 years ago and today, my knowledge of what we have to offer here and my appreciation for it is vastly different.
Right.
But my cold calls back then, and keep in mind, as a interim team leader, I was making those calls as well through different points. It was always more about that particular person, whether they were a new licensee or somebody who was licensed already. It wasn't, hey, come join KW. It's, hey, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And let them talk. Just like when you're sitting at a listing appointment, it's not, hey, this is how much your house is worth. It's, what do you think your home is worth? Why do you think that? What's important about that? And what's the motivation behind that?
Yeah.
Once we understand that, then we can really find out if we're a good fit and if we can help. So I would say from the cold calling aspect, whether it was Indeed ads or, whether it was a freshly licensed list that comes out from the state, whatever it was, I would tap into that depending on how the conversation went.
Gotcha.
And then obviously as my experiences with KW grew, my story changed. And I think there's more validity to my story now, having, like you said, been somebody who started from scratch and is now in the top 1-2% of our market. And, you know, the other amazing thing, and I'm honored, this is kind of like the huge value add I love hitting competing agents with, is 75% of my business is agent to agent referral.
Yep.
And in a market like mine, where people are moving to, you know, we have net growth.
Yeah.
And Keller Williams sells, you know, 1 in every 4.5 homes in America. The odds of that person selling their home in Ohio and looking for an agent down here, they're probably going with a KW agent. So to have that minimal experience in our market, but be able to build that up and then use our network within KW to grow my business to that is mind-boggling. And I think other agents in the market really appreciate that too.
Well, and Jay, you know, I mean, and that's what I love about you, man, is that, you know, you're not only committed to being a great agent. I mean, you're so personable, right? And when you go to these events, right, and you're always giving of yourself to people in KW, but you literally have built. I mean, you were just invited to Gary's Top 200, right, at Mega Camp, right? I mean, people need to keep in mind. You went solo. What? How many years ago? 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, it was 2020, 100% solo back into 100% production.
Right, and you're on track this year to do what's your on track production numbers for this year?
So I'm pushing them. I intend to push them. The goal is 75, and we've closed. I think between what's closed and what's pending, we're at about 55.
55 homes, yes.
55 units, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're pushing a little over 20 so far in volume.
Well, let's go back for a second here, because talk about, okay, so you're 75% referral business, right? Obviously, that not only makes you valid and creates an amazing business that is sustainable. You can speak to what it means to be a stakeholder at KW and being a part of this global real estate company of 200,000 agents, right? That are should be vested in your success. And I know that, you know, you're very passionate about what it means to be a stakeholder, particularly when it comes to KW associates referring out-of-state referrals to only Keller Williams associates, correct? I mean, that if you're thinking like a stakeholder, Jay, right, you should be sending your out-of-state referrals to only KW associates, right? That's something you're very passionate about, yes?
I am. And I do think there's a caveat to that. Is, you know, I think it depends on the individual's personal relationship, of course.
Well, of course.
However, when you have the option, let's put it that way, because there are some great KW agents who have left and, you know, usually ultimately come back. And do we want to burn that bridge? Do we want to make that person feel ostracized? And hey, if that's truly a good agent and you're great friends with them, continue that relationship. But it's mind-boggling when somebody says, "Hey, you know, I don't know anybody in, you know, Temecula, California," and that's where that's at, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is.
I'm not a geographer. I don't know.
No. Totally.
You pick a random place and say, "Well, I don't know anyone there, and I'll just give it to whoever the first person is." Well, there's quite a few things that are going wrong with that. One, you have a responsibility to your client, not just to close on their home in your market, but to be a piece of that puzzle that completes the entire transition for them. So you want to know what's going on when you're referring them out.
Sure.
And A, you're going to be working as a team with that agent. B, you don't know that agent. You don't know their culture. You know, it's a learning curve.
Sure.
And then C, you have the opportunity in most cases to choose an agent who has a vested interest like yourself to continue the growth of this company. And, you know, as an example, if someone were to send me a referral, you know, everybody in my upline who are the amazing people who brought me here. I mean, the person who is my sponsor's sponsor has sent me 5 pieces of business.
Wow.
This year.
Wow.
And they're all her family members.
Which is smart, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you're thinking like a business owner, not only are you getting a referral fee.
Yeah.
Hello, you're getting profit share kickback from that, and somebody in your profit share tree is doing more business, which my guess is going to make them happier which is going to keep them at KW longer and in either A, keep contributing to your profit share, but also B, grow your profit share even deeper than they could have ever imagined. So there's a lot of people in KW that don't understand that. Like, look, you are, not only you vested financially in all KW associates, you're doubly vested in people in your profit share tree. And if you got somebody in your profit share tree that's a solid agent in a town you have a referral, why wouldn't you think of them, right? Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, when it comes to referring to other KW agents, not only do you have that standardized education systems like Ignite and Bold, and we can speak the same language when we're, I know not that I know your story, but I know some of the things that you've been through.
Yeah.
We can kind of communicate. But the other thing I think is, we talk about together, we achieve more. Well, it doesn't matter if it's within our market center, within our local market, or as a whole of KW. The bigger that we get, the stronger that we get, the more solid that we get. The way I look at it is, if we look at space, right? And it's going to sound weird, but like the bigger a star gets, the more gravitational pull it has.
Wow,
so,
that's deep.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
The bigger we get and the more energy that we are consuming and creating, we're pulling people into our orbit.
Well, and Jay, let's dive. Let's go off a little bit more on that. Look, let's talk about the moment we're in. Hello, we are literally the only real estate company fighting for the future of the true real estate professional in an industry that's basically trying to turn them into low-paid door openers. It's the same reason why you shouldn't be buying leads from Zillow. It's the same reason you should be helping us evolve our tech, right? It's the same reason you should be buying into our culture and helping your fellow stakeholders, is that even though you might not see an immediate return on investment for thinking that way, ultimately thinking that way is like being that star in attracting people as well to KW. It makes you more valid as a KW stakeholder. And when you speak, Jay, to other agents, either in Myrtle Beach that you have a relationship with, or I know you're also passionate about teaching profit share as well, and I would imagine this is also a part of your conversations. It makes you more valid, all right, as a stakeholder to be thinking that way without anybody even telling you. You were already way ahead of the game, and you came to me and said, "Hey, man, I don't understand why KW agents or why this company is not more purposeful about really pushing the referral network within our company, because that's one of the biggest reasons to join KW." And you agree with that? Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, it's certainly one of the things, and it's one of the reasons if that works for that agent.
Yeah.
That might not be the value add for that agent, and that's okay.
Sure.
But we've got there's so much.
Right, but you can speak to it in an authentic way because you built your business around that, right? And I would say that you're probably one of the top, referral agents for the level you're at in this company. And I'm just curious how you built that moving forward. I know you go to all these events. I know you're purposeful on social media. Let's talk a little bit about how you really solidify yourself as the Myrtle Beach agent of choice within Keller Williams. Because I know you're very purposeful about that. Yeah.
So this is something that I find really interesting, and it's kind of my philosophy of KW is that everything compounds on itself and everything is cyclical. So it's not this or that. Yeah. And a lot of people feel that way. Well, I can't focus on profit share because I'm doing sales.
Yeah.
Or I haven't sold a house in 20 years because all I do is profit share.
Who's those guys?
I don't know. But it's one of those things where, and to get back to your question, is like, hey, we're an education company. Okay, great. Then I'm going to travel to my regional events. I'm going to travel to other market centers for their Bold. I'm going to engage with other agents. I'm going to create relationships. Oh, and by doing that, I find business. Oh, and then by talking and telling my story about that business, other people from outside of KW start to look. And that's one of the things when I teach my profit share class, or when I teach any class, or even just having a conversation with a new agent that I'm mentoring, is tell your story. I think a lot of people are afraid to be that person who's annoying or says, oh, everyone knows I'm a real estate agent. Nobody wants me to recruit them. Nobody wants me to sell them a house. I don't want to bother my family and friends or whoever. Here's the thing. Who cares? First of all, you're going to connect with the people who need you in that moment anyway. So I tell my story anytime I have the opportunity to. And I've told you this, I'm not a school spirit, company man, rah, rah, rah kind of person. It just so happens that KW's values and the opportunities that they afford me align with my goals and my intentions in life.
Yep.
And it changed my life. So if I want to have the same impact on someone else, what's the easiest way that I can impact somebody's life is to share my story. And if it resonates with them, provide them a roadmap for them to change their life. And sometimes that roadmap is just a referral to a team leader or a cup of coffee. And gosh, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. So how did I do that? So traveling and networking at different events, family reunion, mega camp, being present on social media, making sure that you're masterminding with people, having connections with people. So one of the ways that I kind of figured out who I wanted to connect with, and this is about real estate business, but this is also about the opportunity that we have. A few years back, I use this in one of my classes. I use the Census Bureau's data to find out the #1 county.
Oh yeah, look, the fact that your dad, I'm surprised I'm not the one who's schwitzing like a stuck pig, but that's why I got one of these suckers next to my computer.
Nice. Well, I'm drinking coffee and I got a coat on and the sun.
I get it. I get you. Hey, dude, we'll both shine. We'll both shine. It's all good.
So, oh gosh, where was I at again?
So you were talking about how you were talking about how you build these relationships, how you are telling your story, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
I hope you can, I'm a little ADHD, so I wasn't right there with you the whole way, but just keep going. Just roll with it. So you're,
sure. I guess what I was getting at was, I'm big into telling your story. The reason that I say these things aren't because I'm, huge, oh my God, I love Keller Williams. It's the greatest thing ever. And yet for me, it is. And for and for everyone here, it should be. And my biggest thing is telling the story, particularly on social media. I'll give you, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, please.
I'll tell you about one of the most recent people that I sponsored to our market center here locally. What's interesting is I had a listing, and it just so happened that the seller was an agent from KW in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we have a listing agent, KW, owner, KW. Well, the buyer was an agent from Charlotte and KW, and the buyer's agent was an agent in my market center. So buyer, seller, listing agent, buyer's agent were all KW agents in the Carolinas regions.
Wow.
And I thought that was super cool, right? Because that's an opportunity for me to talk about, hey, look, I just put this property under contract. I know what I'm doing in real estate. And B, hey, if you're not with KW, you could be missing out because what are the odds that there are 4 parties in a transaction that are all Keller Williams?
Exactly.
That's crazy. And one of the agents who had toured the home, had written an offer and it didn't pan out, came back to me and said, oh my gosh, it went under contract. And I saw your post about the KW. She said, what are you guys doing over there? And, we had a conversation, and I wouldn't say that everyone could or should have these conversations, but having been in the leadership role, I was like, hey, and of course I always look up everyone's production, whether I'm writing an offer, receiving an offer, or just for fun.
Very smart.
And I said, hey, I said, I see it's June right now. I said, hey, I see that you've sold, like $2.2 million so far, which is roughly capping in our market center.
Yeah.
And I said, you sold about 2.2 million so far. I'm like, you're doing pretty good. What kind of split are you on? And she was on a 50-50.
Oh, wow.
And I said, wow. And I said, that's kind of nuts. And I explained to her, hey, at our company, you would have capped. And I said, if you continue on and we project out and extrapolate what you've done to the end of the year, I forget the exact numbers, but it was something like 60 grand is what she was losing.
Wow.
Had she stayed where she was.
Yeah.
And after that conversation, she ended up coming over. Now it's about 2 years ago.
That's amazing, man. And so she, obviously, one, you were an agent that person respected, because if you weren't, obviously they wouldn't have been vulnerable and talked about their business with you in the first place. But, and speak to that a little bit, Jay, about, I mean, I'm sure you get recruited all the time. Yeah.
You know what? I think
No?
people know to stay away from me. I think.
Really?
Yeah. I
You're a
mean,
homer?
what's
Yeah.
that?
Because you're a KW homer? Is that why? Or
Yeah,
because?
no, I literally have had people call me Mr. KW, which I think is kind of weird. And I
Yeah.
don't want Gary to find out. 'Cause I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not me. But I do. I think people know to stay away from me.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing that I do is, and I would recommend that people do, is when you're having these conversations with agents, again, just listen for something that is a cry for help.
Sure.
Or if there's something that they're doing that's really, really awesome, and you can tell, like, hey, everyone at that particular brokerage, like, they're still pen and paper kind of people, but this guy's doing something a little different.
Yeah.
It means he's thinking different.
Yeah.
And another situation, I had a gentleman who would always send me bomb videos. Are you familiar with bomb?
Yes, of course.
So we were in the middle of a transaction. I represent the buyer. And every time this guy wanted to communicate with me, it was an email with bomb. So, I'm like out to dinner, like trying to watch a movie about negotiations. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I talked to him one day, and I jokingly said to him, I was like, man, like, you're killing me with those things. I said, but I really like what you're doing. And I said, what else do you use for marketing? What else, do you have it built into your CRM? Yeah. And I start laying the breadcrumbs, because here's somebody who is showing that they're into technology, showing that they like communication, showing that they're not willing to, or they're willing to take a chance and try something new. And we ended up getting on a conversation about his CRM and how much he has to pay for his CRM. And we started talking about command. Then we started talking about splits. Again, funny. Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, I've got a cap too. It's, X, Y, and Z. I said, cool. I said, you go to 100% after that? Well, no, it's 95.5.
Right.
And I'm like, forever?
Right.
And he's like, yeah. And again, I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, you're killing it. Again, you're spending 5% of your GCI beyond this point for what? For you to pay for your own CRM?
Think about what's going to be like, Jay, someday as you continue to be purposeful about growing your profit share, when you are earning more in profit share than you were paying out Keller Williams, right? Yep. We call that the 100+% club. But imagine you have a conversation with somebody and you got that in your back pocket. Man, that's an amazing split. I actually make more than 100% of my commission. Imagine when what their face is going to look like when you tell them that, right? And look, it's never, price is never the conversation you want to lead with. I mean, obviously what you're talking about is what I teach on. Hey, find their pain, right?
Yeah.
KW's the medicine cabinet. Find out what makes them happy. Show them how to smile more, right? And I would imagine it's the same approach you take with sellers too, right? And buyers, right? You're not coming in and not kicking the door open and throwing your listing presentation on the table, right? You're doing the needs analysis. You're trying to find their hot buttons. It's the same approach for you when talking to agents, pretty much, you think?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's, it's important to know the agents in your local market. And I understand there are markets out there that have, 40,000 agents, and it's difficult. Sure. In our market, we have between 5,000 and 6,000 on average. And again, we all know that there's the, top 10% that actually do the work. And then the top 10% of that are the actual business owners.
Yeah.
So there's names out there where we know each other, we work together, but kind of understanding what they're doing in their business. And I'll give you an example. There was an agent who went off, started their own independent brokerage fairly recently. I guess it was doing real great after COVID, and was like, oh, we're crushing it. We're making all this money. I'm going to open my own independent brokerage, and we're doing a deal together. And she, I don't want to give anything away, is actually like reaching out for help and saying like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry I was delayed on that. I'm struggling. I can't keep up. And I'm like, okay, so you went to be your own brokerage. You don't have the infrastructure to support it. Right. And now you're double guessing yourself. Right. And now this is a learning moment. I had, touched on like, hey, we should have a conversation. Hey, and then never pursued it. without getting too deep into anything, there's a likely chance that her and her independent are coming over here.
Right. And you will not be their sponsor.
That's correct.
Right. Right. Which by the way, is
that's okay.
No, it's just as much of an important message as what you've said up until that point. Right. I mean, I tell people all the time, we always say, don't be a secret agent. Don't be a secret attractor to KW. There is nothing worse than walking into your market center and seeing an agent that you could have sponsored to KW, join KW, and you were not even in the consideration, right? Because you weren't purposeful about it. So that was a learning lesson for you. I would imagine that has also shaped how you're going to be moving forward. You're not going to let that happen again, are you?
Oh no, absolutely. Right. In fact, on a similar situation, I had a deal with somebody just recently, and I mean, it went sideways, so we had a little bit of a delay.
Yeah.
But I was this close to getting her to come to Mega Camp.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and again, she's got a solid team, probably $30 million team between. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them, and again, even though she didn't end up coming, even though our deal went sideways, but we ended up fixing it, thankfully. The conversation's there. The fact that she said yes, let me talk to my husband. Like I really do want to go. The reason that she didn't go was because we still hadn't wrapped up the deal we were on, and she's like, if I leave, my sellers are going to be upset.
Right.
I understood that, didn't push her on it, but she has still raised her hand. Okay. We've still built a relationship, and we still talk outside of just the deals we're on. We have conversations. How's business? What's going on? Yeah. Just having conversations, you don't know where that's going to lead you.
Well, Jay, I mean, family reunion's coming up in Vegas in February. Have you thought about going back to her and saying, look, I know when I asked you if you were interested in this event before, it wasn't the right timing, but I actually have an opportunity to invite, an agent to go to family reunion. Have you thought about doing a follow-up call or a conversation with her about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And once I get my hotel booked, yeah,
you're not the best. I know you tend to be a little bit late on booking stuff, but
once I find out where you're staying, then I'll be all right.
I'm going cheap, man. I'm at the Luxor this year. Probably not where Jay Gray is going to end up, but and look, if let's just say she said, "Hey, I want to go to family reunion." One, do you think that's an expense that you would incur fully? Would you pay for the ticket? Would you pay for her event out there or her meals and stuff? Or would you go to your market center leadership and say, hey, I got this top agent that's thinking about going to family reunion. Do you know if your market center is offering those a free ticket to top agents? Have you had those conversations with your leadership yet?
I have. And what I would say to others is to do the same.
Yeah.
If you identify somebody who obviously don't go out and offer people like, hey, you have a free ticket and then not have a plan.
Right.
But in the conversations I was having with this particular agent, I did go to our team leader and I said, hey, and of course he knows this agent because she's a top producer. I said, hey, I might be able to get XYZ to come to Mega Camp. And he said, do it. Whatever you got to do it. We'll pay for it. Now, not every market center is going to be
that's great. Right. But a pretty smart mindset, one from a leadership team of a market center to do that. I mean, look, and you think, they're paying for the ticket. Do they typically, you think they were offering to pay for their whole, their hotel and all that stuff?
I believe it was plane ticket and hotel. Yeah.
Okay. So look, imagine that's a, $2,000 investment, right? If you're thinking like a business owner, I think that's the problem here, Jay, is that a lot of our associates think about profit share as an afterthought or as a side hustle or whatever, but it should be thought about as a business, as a part of your business strategy, overall strategy. But especially for a market center, it's like, look, if I could invest $2,000 to get a top agent to go to Mega Camp or family reunion. First of all, let's get real. You get an agent to Mega Camp or family reunion, I'm thinking the conversion rate is probably about 70 to 80% for those people coming back and signing up with KW. And if you get somebody like that, a $30 million producer with a big team coming over KW for a $2,000 investment as a market center, you're going to get that money back. Who knows how many times over? But as an agent, if you're not even having to pay for that, what a no-brainer that is, right? But I tell people all the time, don't hesitate to pull your wallet out and take and spend your own money to get somebody to one of these events, because there's no better training or a recruiting tool than to just come from contribution and say, look, I think you're a great agent. This event has changed my life. I think you'll get a lot out of it. This is not a recruiting conversation. I'm just here to help. You get them there and let them self-discover KW and see it for all it, all it's worth. And I think the problem that we face, Jay, is that not enough of our associates have made it to these events as KW agents, right? Like, you don't even know what it's like to be truly a KW agent until you've been to Mega Camp or Family Reunion and have experienced this company on such a grand stage, right? So not only does it make sense to go so that you're valid, I mean, and also, let's get real, you spend your own money to go to Mega Camp or Family Reunion, you thinking to get that money's worth out? I mean, a guy like you, Jay, goes to Family Reunion and Mega Camp, you're going to make so many more times money just in referrals, right? Because that's what you really are purposeful about when you're there, correct?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, for me, it's maintenance of relationships.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm out to meet new people and
Sure.
if there's business to be had, sure, but it's just the 2 times a year that we know that we get to get together with our friends and colleagues.
Exactly.
And one thing I wanted to touch on really quickly, you were talking about providing agents in the market. Hey, top producer, we can pay for you to go to one of these events. That's wonderful. At the same time, there's agents out there that aren't huge producing agents, whether it's because of their own limitations or maybe they don't have the resources.
Sure.
There's something lacking that we could provide. What I would recommend to people is, if, like you were saying, look at it as an extension of your business and treat the co-op agents as your past clients almost. Send them a handwritten thank you. I know that brokerages do it. It's usually like from the broker in charge or the front desk lady or whatever sends them out. I got a whoopee cushion the other day. I don't know. Did you see that?
Yeah, you told me that was from the director of growth of another real estate company.
It was director of happiness.
Right.
And I got a whoopee cushion. Now, I'm not being look. As a $20 million, $30 million producer, I don't want a whoopee cushion, right? Like, hey, give me a book or something.
Well, the point you made, Jay, was that, first of all, it's a great out of the box idea, but was there any connection between the whoopee cushion and the messaging? I mean, was it like, hey, thanks for doing a transaction with one of our agents, here's a whoopee cushion? Or was it, I mean, how did there was no tie-in, right? There was no tie-in. That was the problem.
Yeah, that was the other problem. But see, that's the thing, though. At least I'm talking about it, right?
Yeah, totally.
And my thing is, if you actually do a legitimate positive transaction with somebody, again, quality over quantity.
Sure.
No offense, I don't want to work with people who are going to bring the company down or me down or make me look bad. But if there's somebody out there, I say, hey, you're amazing. I think you'd be an awesome fit. I think there's something that we could do to grow your business. Here's a thank you card. Here's a copy of The One Thing, or what just came out, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Playbook. Buy a couple copies of these. Again, this isn't a $2,000 ticket to Las Vegas. This is a $30 book.
Right.
And it can still make an impact. And the other thing, if you're providing value to the agents in your market, and even if they choose not to come to KW, but they implement something that you were able to teach them or able to offer them, you're making your job easier the next time you work with them.
That's a great point, man.
That's the way I look at it. Like, hey, even if you're not going to be over here, when I'm working with you on the other side of the table, I want you to be the best version of yourself. It makes my life easier.
And sometimes attracting people to KW is not a sprint, man. It's a marathon, right? It's about getting into relationships. It's about taking mind share, being an agent they respect. And, I kind of jokingly say, once you get to that point as an agent, you kind of have a couple of choices. Either A, maybe wait for their real estate company to mess it up. Okay. And you can be there to show them a better path. Or B, Jay, you can wait for their why to change. I mean, a lot of people's whys have changed. Your why is changing, I'm sure, every couple of months as you just keep growing and growing. And I think sometimes you talk to an agent, a year or two ago, and they might not have been in a place mentally to even consider another company, but maybe some life changes have happened. Maybe, who knows what has happened. But I mean, I would imagine that taking the same approach that you take with your real estate database and staying in touch with agents, right? Because, who knows when their real estate company is going to change or be sold to another company or change their splits or charge some new fee, or maybe they're going through a divorce, or, they want to spend more time with their kids and they want, more leverage, and 100% of their commission is not enough anymore. They want freedom and flexibility and all that great stuff. So have you ever felt like, hey, I talked to somebody, but a year or two later, I talked to them and their whole world had changed and the conversation went differently around KW?
It's funny. There's a guy that we've been working with, and I say we because he's a great guy. I would consider us friends. He's at competing brokerage. We text, we joke, everything's great. I referred him to our team leader a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I think we've been to like 10 lunches with this guy.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is he keeps coming back. And I don't know if it's for the free food or what, but
maybe
he'll reach out to me or he'll reach out to our team leader. And he's a very cautious person.
Yeah.
But the conversations are changing every few months.
Interesting.
And so I think he's had it in his mind that he does want to come over, yet he's finding reasons why. And some of them are legitimate. And I'm not going to get into his personal life. But, 5-6 months goes by and he goes, hey, man, I'm really thinking about it because of X, Y, and Z. And now we're at this point where I'm like, we've chipped away at this guy for like 2 years.
Right.
And now he's beginning to reach out more frequently.
That's awesome.
Awesome. I think we're going to have him soon.
That's great.
One thing, and I don't know if we've got time for this, but did you see, and I thought this is an interesting thought. There was an article that Redfin as a company is going to move to pull out of NAR.
Yeah. We were talking about that.
What's that?
They said we were texting about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And my thought with that is, if you think about Redfin already, they're all, you're talking about paid door openers.
Yeah.
They're basically salaried agents, to my knowledge. I don't know how everything works.
Low paid functionaries, man. No doubt.
And now they're saying, hey, you know what? We're going to take away the one thing that connects you to other people is your association through being a realtor. We're just going to leave that. Yeah. And we don't have to be bound by a code of ethics, and we can create our own. And now we're getting this, again, not that real estate isn't privatized already, but like you're having a whole new type of real estate company be born.
Exactly.
And are there going to be people that works for? Sure. Are there going to be people who are like, hey, I don't know if I feel okay with this and looking for something else? I think that's a huge opportunity for us to reach out to our Redfin agents too.
That's a very good point, man, is that if you have relationships with Redfin agents, right? I mean, now would be a good time to follow up with them, right? I mean, and I think it's also important when you're talking about people like at Redfin or Zillow or some of these other tech disruptors that treat agents like low-paid functionaries, is that many of them just don't know what they don't know, man, right? I mean, they got their real estate license and they just, what they wanted, the path of least resistance, right? Or they just, like you and I just joined a company without really doing a lot of research. But I think what we're going to find, hopefully, is that there are going to be agents at these companies that with a little bit of coming from contribution and maybe helping them think more like a business owner, you might help them realize, look, these companies are good companies, but I'm an employee. I don't have control of I'm not a business owner. Maybe my why is going to change and I'm going to want to be in a company that's going to teach me how to do that. So this could just be a catalyst for having those conversations and building some relationships over there. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Jay. So let's just get to your numbers. Okay. Because, and before we jump into that, I want to say this, you and I had a little moment there where we were working together, working internet leads through Brent Mitchell, my guy. And
you have to pay him 40 cents every time you say his name or something, though?
No, not at all. That's the best thing about it, man. I don't owe him anything. But we have what I would call is one of the greatest win-win relationships of all time. And, Brent is, obviously my number one wealth determiner in my life. And I'm here for him always to help him. But I just remember, Jay, when you were working his leads, we had a couple of other people working these internet leads, but you were just crushing the conversion on these leads. Okay. And, maybe I, spent too much time working so many internet leads and just talking and not listening enough and kind of getting caught up in my my scripts and stuff. But I imagine what you were painting before about how you're listening to people, how you're consulting them, even with internet leads, right? Like that was the reason why you had such great conversions on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the times that we had one of our monthly masterminds,
Yeah.
I remember you taking a note down, and I was like, why is Aaron Kaufman taking a note down of something I said? But no, it was something that was super simple. And you even said, you're like, that's genius. Like, why are we not asking that question? And for me, and just for the people who don't know,
I don't know if I said it was genius, but go ahead.
That one might have been recorded. I don't know.
Just kidding.
Yeah. So for those of the people out there that might not know, as Aaron said, we were running Facebook leads. They were all, or not Facebook leads, internet leads. And they were from all over the country. So it would be like, hey, at 3 o'clock, I have a phone call with somebody in Oklahoma. Hey, at 4 o'clock, I've got a call with somebody in Washington State, whatever it was. I had no idea who they were, what their needs were. I just had an idea of where they were and that they had their real estate license. And I think that's why it's important to tell your story and live the culture that we talk about, because it makes it so much easier. It's conversational. It's not, I don't need to go to a script and say, oh, hey, this is Jay with Keller Williams, and I wanted to reach out. What I would say to them is, like, hey, Aaron, I see that you got your real estate license. That's so awesome. My name's Jay. I'm a national talent scout for KW, as well as a top agent here in Myrtle Beach, and was just curious, what made you reach out to KW? Let them answer. And then, like you were talking about with the KW medicine cabinet, I was thinking of it like a toolbox where you say, what are you looking for in a company? What are you looking for in a partnership with whomever you work with in real estate? And it's always the same answers, particularly with new agents. It's, I want support or a family feeling, that nice lovey-dovey feeling and feel like people are there for me. I want
training,
education and training. Or, hey, I want to save money. First of all, they don't know what they need to spend money on anyway. So when you start saying like CRM, ads, like, oh, wow. But what's interesting is no matter what their reasoning was, somebody said, if I'm looking for blank in a company, we have it. And that's the way the conversation goes. So if they want training, oh, great. You know what? We're one of the #1 training companies in America, across all industries. Ignite, Ignite, Bold, all of our other trainings go into that. Or somebody goes, hey, you know what? I just want some place that I can feel I'm doing good for the community. Oh, wow. Have you heard about KW Cares? Have you heard about Red Bed? And just hitting them with that stuff. And again, you need to participate in this stuff so that you can be valid and understand it.
But it was really just basically hit their 1 or 2 hot buttons. Don't give them the whole Keller Williams, speech, but just say, hey, just like you would do with a seller. I assume it's the same approach, right? Like, what's your hot buttons, right? Let me guess, you want more money, more time, less time, with least amount of hassles. But, laser focusing on that, because the truth is, Jay, right? Like, and let's kind of make people understand here. It's not your job to close the deal. Okay. It's your job to excite and refer them to somebody in leadership that's trained to close the deal. Now, you have had the experience and, as a former person in leadership, but also as a top agent, you have the confidence and the experience to go deeper with people, especially newer agents, right? Because you can speak to, what it took to get to where you are today. But overall, right, you're just trying to find out, look, this is this person's hot button, right? They're excited about, our culture, our training, our tech. Here might be, did you ever dive into some of their, what their challenges are, or what maybe some of their, what some of the issues the team leaders, like, that maybe they didn't have any money, right? Or maybe they, didn't feel comfortable lead generating. Did you ever get into not the negative side of things, but what maybe the bad and the ugly part of them was? So when you refer them, that the team leader at least understood maybe what their challenges were or where their mindset was?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I would structure it, and as you mentioned, I think the conversation is a little bit different from somebody who's been at KW a month to somebody who's been there for 20 years. But as you mentioned, it's talking about what they're looking for, and usually if they're looking for something, it's because they're lacking it already.
Yeah.
So hey, tell me a little bit more about what you mean that you guys don't have technology at XYZ company, and then they start to talk about it. Take notes, right? And then when you're relaying that information to your team leader or the team leader of that respective market center, you can say, hey, look, Aaron, just to give you a heads up, this guy, this girl, she's XYZ, she's afraid of this, he doesn't like that, here's what they need. And that way, the conversation is tailored to that person and they don't know the difference. Or, oh my gosh, these people really get me.
Exactly. Which is why it's so important to really understand all the things that we have to offer so that you can have in the back of your mind all these different sort of branches to go off on, knowing that no matter what this person says, I can bring it back to why KW is the place to solve that problem or the place to address what their hot buttons are, right? But if you're not, if you're not implementing our tech, if you don't participate in our culture, if you don't donate to KW Cares and participate in Red Day, if you don't attend training events, right? If you don't teach classes, it's kind of hard to speak to that, or at least, and I'm talking, it's one thing to be authentic, Jay. It's another thing to be refined in your conversations, right? Meaning it's very easy for you to speak like this because you live it, right? Other people could try to learn the scripts, but I think especially when you're talking to existing agents, right? We can smell scripts a mile away, right? But when have internalized this because you walk the walk and you're valid as an agent, right? It's so much more powerful than just going through, hey, here's all the opportunities at KW, here's all the things that make us different, right? If you really want to have, better conversions, which you have, right? It comes from being valid, but also committing to mastery too. You've had a lot of conversations, man, over the years that have helped you really perfect the conversations you have today. Correct?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you want to add to that?
I had one thought from earlier that I had forgotten, and I can't see if there's even anybody watching.
There's 5 people watching, dude. They're commenting. They're loving this conversation. Like, this is going on YouTube. It's going to live forever in the group. And Jay, remember this: if all we do is inspire one person today, man, it's totally worth it. And that's my mindset for teaching too. I'm like, look, if all I do is inspire one of your people, I earn my money today. So one person on this who's going to watch this, if they go do one thing different, man, this was totally worth our time today, right?
Perfect. Then with that, I've got 2 thoughts. Okay,
good. Open it up.
This one's the simple, easy one. The other day, I heard something that was really impactful. I was having a conversation with somebody, and we talked about ROIs on relationships. And they said, well, everyone talks ROI. Like, hey, if I spend $2,000 to get them to mega camp, and then they cap, that's $20,000 in a company dollar. Oh, it's the ROI is great. But what about ROE? Return on ego.
Wow.
And it's people who will do things, or if you say, hey, look, I want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. Now, ROI, spending $1 on a cup of coffee, and maybe I get a capper out of it. Great. But the ROE, the return on that ego, is this person is like, wow, I'm good enough to be asked to sit down and have a coffee with. And, playing to their ego to get the return that you want versus actually investing in it.
That's brilliant. Now, is that a Jay Gray term, or is that?
It's not. I'm not going to take that.
Dude,
now.
Rip off and duplicate. That's, by the way, what makes KW so amazing, right? But who do you want to give somebody who that came from? ROE?
No, I don't. It was.
We'll just say it came from Jay Gray.
Yeah, that works.
All right. So I love that. Now, do you play that ROE? I'm assuming with sellers too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just their house and how beautiful it is and all that stuff, right?
And we do it every day, but I think if we're cognizant of it, it makes it a little bit easier.
Well, and by the way, and what that does is it doesn't tether your efforts to a result. It tethers your effort to an activity, right? Which I think that's one of the reasons why so few KW associates are really purposeful about profit shares. That we're in a company of real estate agents, Jay, that many have an immediate gratification need, and they want to see a quantifiable return on investment for their efforts, right? And we know, both of us know, profit share is the long game. I mean, first of all, how can you ever predict who somebody might become and who they might attract to KW? You think your sponsor who brought you over to KW when you were 23 or 22 thought that you would turn into Jay Gree, number one realtor in Myrtle Beach, or number two, whatever you are? The point is, right, like the amount of profit share that you have generated for your upline and that you will generate, not just from your production, from the people you've brought into, right? I mean, what do you think the return on investment is going to be for that person? But if they were only looking at it like, hey, how much I'm going to make off of Jay Gray if I get him to KW in the next year, right? They're seeing it, short-sighted, right? I mean, so I think people need to understand that sometimes the return on, the ROE is sometimes even more powerful than ROI, because ROE is the long game. Yeah.
No, yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And
there's another point you had too, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because it parlays right into what you just said, and then I think we do have to wrap up here shortly.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, you're a busy guy. I know.
No, I wasn't. Hey,
no, dude, it's all good. Hey, man, I'm more than happy to take the backstage here to Jay Gray for sure.
So one of the other things, and a piece of advice for people out there, or just another way of thinking, is if you're an individual real estate agent and maybe you've got an admin, or you're thinking about growing a team, or you are a small team that's thinking about adding another agent or two to your business, I think a lot of people miss an opportunity there. Let's say I want to bring on a buyer's agent by the end of next year. Well, does that mean that I wait until October, November of next year to start looking for that person?
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of people go, hey, you know what? That new agent, Susie, she's awesome. She's dedicated. I'm going to bring her on the team. Well, you didn't really give that person the attention that they deserved. And you also didn't say, is that the best fit? You just went with the easy fit. Right. I would recommend running internet ads, whatever type of advertisements that you want, a few months before. That way you're bringing in a bench of people. You want to constantly build your bench, A, so that you have talent ready to go when you need it. And B, if they're not a fit for you, they may be a fit for your market center or another team in your market center. And you're now creating opportunities to grow your profit share tree while growing your business and changing the lives of people that you're bringing into your world. So again, there's, God, what am I thinking of? Let's say you're duplicating your effort, but you're getting two different results from the same amount of effort. That's a
great point. And I always hear people say, like, I'm running job ads to hire people for my team, right? And I'm like, I think what you should do is run a job ad for Keller Williams, like cast a wider net, then pull from that wide net people that you think might be a fit for your team, and anybody that's not, right, you get them in front of KW leadership if they're a fit, right? So, all right, look, I know you're a busy guy. Let's finish strong here. If somebody has a referral for Myrtle Beach and they want the best looking top agent in Myrtle Beach who will literally service their clients at the highest level, I have no doubt about that, what's the best way for them to get in touch with Jay Gray?
It is not Facebook Messenger. You don't know how many people I've got sitting in there waiting for me to respond. I'm like, it doesn't alert me. And maybe I'm just like getting old and I don't know how to work my phone anymore.
Yeah.
But shoot me a text, 843-532-8800, or my name spelled correctly right there, Jay Gray at KW.com.
Awesome, man. Well,
find me on Facebook too. If you haven't found me on Facebook, like me there.
Yeah.
My account's been monetized, so I'm trying to make 38 cents this week. It's pretty cool.
No, you're a machine, dude. And I just am so impressed by you, man. You're one of my favorite people at KW. And, if I was kicking butt like you were at 33, like you are right now at your age, I mean, imagine where you're going to be, Jay, when you're my old 50-year-old age, right?
Calabra.
All right. So profit share, building your business, man. You're so on track to blowing up all your goals. And we can't thank you enough for taking time today to spend with us, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care. We'll talk soon. All right.
All right. Sounds good, brother. See you.